This is the third Tuesday of the month Waupaca City Council meeting.
Okay, welcome everybody to our second regular scheduled meeting in March. Today is Tuesday, March 20th, 2018. It's 6 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. And as always, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and we'll ask Sandy to read the clerk's open meeting statement for us.
This meeting and all other meetings of the Common Council are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes so that citizens may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting.
And also take roll for us, Sandy.
Brian Smith.
Here.
Steve Hackett. Lori Chestnut.
Here.
Paul Hagan.
Here.
Alan Keeland.
Here.
Scott Perchatsky.
Here.
Dave Peterson.
Here.
Paul Mayo.
Here.
Chuck Whitman.
Here.
Mary Fair.
Here.
And Eric Olson.
Here.
9 present. We have a quorum.
Next up is the consent agenda. These are items that are on your agenda that we'll just take one motion on that and vote on that one motion, unless you see something that's on the consent agenda that you would like to see moved to the regular agenda. If not, we'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Fair, that we approve the consent agenda as printed. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. We have the regular agenda. There are no additional items for tonight's meeting, and we didn't move anything from the consent agenda, so we'd be looking for a motion to approve that agenda. Motion by Peterson, second by Olson, that we approve the regular agenda as printed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Under non-agenda items and announcements, we have a certificate of appreciation for Russ Montgomery for his 30 years of work with the city, and he also has a 3 gift certificates from the chamber that he will be able to use wherever he'd like to. And we have a certificate for Russ that says, this certificate is awarded to Russell Montgomery in recognition of his service to the citizens of Waupaca from 3/28/1988 to 3/28/2018. Signed by myself and Council President Paul Mayo. So, Justin, if you would, please get this to him and thank him. If anybody sees him, make sure you thank him. He's probably tired. That's 30 years, you know, he couldn't make it tonight. All right, next we have proclamation. This is Municipal Treasurers Appreciation Week, and I have a proclamation in front of me that I'll read. Whereas the office of this municipal treasurer is a time-honored and vital part of the local government that impacts the day-to-day life of citizens throughout the state, and whereas the municipal treasurer provide the necessary financial information to governing bodies and agencies at the local, county, and state levels, and whereas the municipal treasurers administer the procedure and keep the financial records that allow governing bodies to carry out its public function efficiently and confidently, and whereas all municipal treasurers are the official custodians responsible for proper management and investment of public funds, and whereas the 1853 municipal treasurers, or 1,853 municipal treasurers and the 72 county treasurers work together to collect all property taxes for their own municipalities and counties, as well as their local schools, technical colleges, and the state. And whereas the municipal treasurers continually strive to improve the administration of the responsibilities of the office of municipal treasurer through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and conferences across Wisconsin. And whereas Governor Scott Walker signed a proclamation on February 7, 2008, declaring April 15th through April 21st, 2018 as Municipal Treasurers Appreciation Week in Wisconsin. Now therefore, I, Brian Smith, the Mayor of City of Waupaca, do hereby recognize the week of April 15th through April 21st, 2018 as Municipal Treasurers Week, and further extend appreciation to our municipal treasurer, Kathy Kaza, and to all municipal treasurers for their vital services they perform and dedication to communities they represent. Well, that was a lot. Thank you, Kathy. Okay, let's move on then. We have public input. If we have anybody in the audience or council or staff that would like to speak to us on a non-agenda item, this is for public input, non-agenda item. Please step up to the podium, give your name and address for the record, and limit your discussions to 3 minutes or less. Any discussion? If not, we'll move on to department head reports, and as always, we will start with Kathy.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. My report starts on page 4. It's a little bit bigger because I've been a little bit busier this time of year. We finished the field work with Johnson Block, and I provided the preliminary 2017 year-end numbers. Right now, 2017 is ending on a positive note in the general fund. However, there are possibly some additional audit entries, but from what I can see, we will be ending up on a positive note in the general fund again. We have received, since this report was provided to you, all of the employees' applications for the new HRA health reimbursement account with North Shore Bank for sick leave incentive payments and post-employment health plan contributions for the police union. And we have received all the funds from the 4 bond issues that were issued this month, and have invested the proceeds until they are needed to pay off the outstanding debt or to be used for the new projects that have been approved or will be approved this year. Have anything else?
All right. Thanks, Kathy. Any questions, comments for Kathy? All right. I guess we'll skip to Brennan here. I'm not sure if Peg is gone today, but we were thinking Emily was going to be here tonight. But we'll go to Brennan, and hopefully she'll show up in a little bit here.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. My report's on page 71. Just an update for everybody regarding the City Hall Square design project. We're at about 90% right now, and we are completing the rest of the design over the next 2 weeks along with the bid specifications, and we intend to be bidding that project out here in early April and opening bids at the end of April and bringing hopefully a recommendation forward to the Common Council in early to mid-May to award that contract. So we're working through the final details on that project right now. As part of that, on my report, there was I mentioned that we were working on doing a downtown community conversation, and that was going to be, we were going to bring in a representative from RDG and an individual from Park Rapids, Minnesota, along with some other facilitators to kind of do a little 2-day I'll say conference, workshops with the Common Council and the business owners about, kind of preparing themselves for not only the project this summer, but again, it will be partial preparation for Main Street in 2021. I had identified April 11th and 12th within my packet to kind of put on your guys' calendar. We're going to have to delay that, those sessions until probably sometime in May as a conflict arose, and we won't be able to do that. Otherwise, my department's ramping up on construction projects. Jane is really busy right now, fielding phone calls and doing inspections out there. McDonald's is moving along. Aldi's is moving along. Danes Hall will start seeing more work there shortly. H.H. Heiner Brewing down on Churchill Street is moving along very well. And we have a couple other projects that'll be making proposals to the Plan Commission here in the next couple months. So should be a pretty busy spring and summer here.
All right. Brennan, thanks. Any questions or comments for Brennan?
I just want to mention that the structure that the people who own the paint store did, their living structure, turned out to fit in so well with the area, and it's beautiful. I just wanted to mention that. It really looks nice.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Justin, Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor. My report can be seen on page 73, and 74. Always starting on our wastewater side. We had a little bit of scare with one of our older tanks. This tank is about 80 plus years old. It was leaking gas just because it holds sewage, so it produces gas. But we had an inspection done just today and actually got some really good news that it's not that bad. We're going to put some money into it, fix it up, and keep it going into the future. We did order the new pickup truck from Neville. We got that coming. We're expecting that to be here in mid-May. That's for the sewer. And we're turning over our current sewer truck, we call Big Orange, over to online. And we were talking with Josh and some of his staff, and we came up with an agreement on payment and also how to set it up for his guys with the ladder rack, the toolboxes, in the lift in the back. We got a couple young operators that have been attending quite a few trainings lately. Cody Bank has gone to the Waupaca County leadership training. He's going to be wrapping that up shortly. Jesse Landry was with the training that Henry set up. And then also these guys went to some additional trainings with Cody going to a GPS GIS training and Jesse doing a budgeting for wastewater supervisors. So these young guys are taking some interest in some advancing their roles with their positions at the plant. So it's always good to see. On the street side, just mostly the routine stuff beyond the City Hall parking lot project, with the exception at the recycling center. We now have the ability to accept scrap metal. That was actually Alderman Keelan's idea during one of our meetings with the WRRCC. So now that's open there. We have an agreement with Alter, but it's intended so people in town that have like a bucket of bolts, some old sheet metal laying around, they can drop that off free of charge. We met with, and I say we as in Roger Hanson, myself, Chief of Police here, Brian Hosell, met with the Waupaca County Highway Department. We worked on a detour route around the Arch Bridge on County E/Berlin Street right next to the Bethany home. So the county will be working, or we will be working with them to publish that detour, get it out there, maintain it as well. So the route is, as you're coming up E from out of town, take Evans Street to Churchill Street, up to School Street, and then back onto E, which is State Street, just beyond the rec center there, and the same, well, the opposite going back. So the part of E, which is State and Lake and Berlin, that's the local traffic only. So we'll be working together to get that published when that project's coming. And we understand that that work should be starting sometime early June, and hopefully should be done before the 4th of July. On the water side, we have been doing quite a bit of work with the King water study, working with the State Department of Administration. And we are, I guess, reviewing our options and continuing our analysis of what we can do, and also to make sure that whatever we do with this, it's financially responsible for the people outside, but most certainly within our borders here at the city. So we'll keep you in tune as those things continue to progress. And Russ has made, speaking of Russ being 30 years, has done quite a bit of improvements on the meeting rooms A and B right down the hall on the library side. Basically repainted the entire room, we hired Bauer to put in brand new LED lights, And the Library Association paid for brand new TVs to replace the projectors, put all those up. So if you go over there and look, it looks like almost like a brand new room. So a lot of work has been put into those meeting rooms that service quite a bit here in the community. We have an upcoming our annual safety trainings coming up in the middle of April. We ordered the pickup truck for facilities as well, and that's on its way in mid-May. And basically, we received a letter from Focus saying that for 2017, our total incentives was over $20,000. So we were excited to see this. We called up, and most of that increment was from the blower project upgrade. It was not applied to 2016, but 2017. But about $2,000 to $3,000 was just from these LED upgrades within our facility here. So we're getting some incentives and making some improvements at the same time.
Great. Thank you, Justin. Any questions, comments for Justin? All right, next up, Andrew, Parks and Rec.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. We'll start with some hiring news, I guess. As Aaron was leaving a couple weeks ago, that Friday, we found out from our cemetery sexton or cemetery and parks crew person that he would be leaving as well for a job at the foundry. That was Sheldon Goggins. So we've kind of worked through the process of that. We posted it internally for a week and did actually get an application from that internal post. We met with that person and offered them the job, and they accepted yesterday. So Casey Martinez will be coming back to the Park and Rec department as our Parks and Cemetery crew person. It's okay. So that has worked out well for us. So we'll transition him back here shortly as Josh and Roger will work those details out, and we'll move forward with Casey in a really busy time for us. So it's a really good opportunity for us as well to move forward. So that's all changed since the last meeting. We're going to start soon on some big projects out at Swan. We work with both the boys youth baseball and girls youth softball groups to help them with some fundraising tournaments throughout the summer, and they generally will kick back some projects back to us in the parks. This year, those projects that we're moving forward on here in the next couple weeks are about $35,000 to $40,000. So they really do a lot for us and help us a lot, and we appreciate that, and it's a good working relationship with them. The two projects they'll be working on will be baseball. We'll be working on covering 3 different bleacher sets, we'll call it, out at Swan with a cantilever type cover. And so they'll cantilever over, there'll be material on top that will protect from UV, protect from baseballs. If anybody spent a few summers out there, you know you have to keep your head up on a swivel because there's baseballs coming from different directions. And so they're really going to fit in well. They're going to work real well, help with the rain as well. So that's a big project that Josh will be working on here in the next couple weeks or a couple months. And softball is going to start working on replacing some, it's essentially like a turf material in the batting cages where there's possibly some cement now. So cement is hard on the baseballs, they're hard on the kids, it's hard on the cleats that they're wearing as well. So that will move forward. Another thing coming up for us is our annual River Ridge Trail Work Day. And speaking of Russell again, he's agreed to kind of take that on because that was one of the things Aaron did. That will be April 21st coming up here, and we're going to work on some of the trail over by Riverside. So if you're interested in helping, there's some lunch there. It's from 8 to 11, I believe, or 8 to noon. And meet down at Riverside Park, and Russell will take charge on that one. As far as Senior Center, she does have a capital project in her Serenity Park, which is just below the bridge right out of her door. And we started working towards how we can best move forward on that. Looking at the plans, we're going to meet with WISCOR here in the next couple weeks to solidify some things, and then as we move forward on that, you'll see a proposal come forward to move and to make some changes down there as well, and her grand vision of what she sees for that park and for the senior center down there. Other than that, we're in our busy time, as we like to call it in Park and Rec, as we move forward in our spring programs. We're taking registrations now for baseball, softball, t-ball, all those good things. So before you know it, we'll be out there and we'll be playing baseball moving forward. So that's it.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. All right, let's move on to Chief Hozell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My report can be found on page 33. Within the last few months, we started some new software in our squad cars that's called Mock. And what that does is it's a GPS system that's in the squads, that's on the computers that we can monitor. And what that does for the officers or the other people that are working the road, if they go on to if they get a call or they're going someplace, their location of their squad will actually show up on our computers as to where they are currently at this time. So if something were to happen to them, we can find where they are. It's been used in different incidents that have happened. If there's been a crime that's been committed, if they're the nearest officer there, we can see who the nearest officer is, and the officers see that and they can say that they're closer, and they will actually go ahead and they'll respond to the scene. So it's really good for the officers, for officer safety and everything. So that's something that we just put into the cards and made active with the policy that we have. Secondly, many of you have probably driven down Evans Street over on Churchill Street, and you're seeing the speed board more and more in the city. So we're moving that around. We were able to get another set of batteries, so we're able to keep it up and going. But in the last month, we had that speed board on Evans Street, and we found that having that speed board up, many times we've had complaints about speeding on that street, and we've tried to take a lot of enforcement, but 85% of the vehicles going down Evans Street now are in the compliance rate of 26 to 30 miles per hour. So that's really helping in a residential area, and we will continue to move that around. I'm finishing up the annual report, and I plan on having the annual report to the commission at next month's meeting. So I believe that Commissioner Schultz will be the one that usually comes to council and presents that. And we gave some performance reports in the last month, and we give performance reports when officers do an exceptional job or an outstanding job. Officer Rodens recently solved a series of burglaries that were committed in the city of Waupaca. There were 3 different burglaries, some thefts, and some forgeries that took place up in a residential area. And through his investigations and everything, he was able to find a suspect and do some interviews and some other interviews with witnesses, and we made an arrest in those cases. So we were able to solve those because they ended up being a string of them that happened. So, and then the other one would have been Officer Van Dinter and Officer Flatoff. There was an incident that happened up on Main Street where a squad car was rammed, and the officers really did an excellent job in handling the situation and being very professional and be able to diffuse the situation based on simple things of how they parked their squad car, how they handled themselves. So they each got a performance report for that. Currently, right now, Sergeant Graceffa is enrolled in a Leaders in Police Organization class. That's a 3-week school for leadership. Myself and Detective Sergeant Helgeson have each been through that, and it's our goal to get our whole command staff through that within the next year. So it will really help our department grow. And then on Monday, April 2nd, Crime Stoppers is going to be up at Culver's again. What they will do is a 10% night that's up there, and our officers will be up there helping serve food, but that really helps our community because we have the Quick 50 program in the schools, And the money comes from the Quick 50 program, comes from Crime Stoppers. So if there's anything that happens in the schools, somebody reports it, those students get $50. So that's how that is funded. And lastly, I guess because it's Russ's 30 years, I got to chime in of such a good job he's been doing. He's been over by us painting doors and painting rooms, and it really looks nice. So
Great.
that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the Chief? All right, next up, Josh.
Okay, our electronics recycling event is scheduled for Friday, April 27th from 10:30 till 1. Our previous vendor that we've worked with for our past events gave us notification this year that they were no longer doing recycling drives, so we found a new vendor, and thanks to Terry Schultz from the Chamber, she secured a grant to help cover the cost. This new vendor has a nominal $200 fee for providing the service. That's all we pay. The old vendor paid us a penny per pound for everything they collected, so we usually got like a $200 or $300 check. So it kind of flips sides. Not, the new one wasn't terribly expensive or anything, but a little bit of a difference. The new vendor does a lot of these drives. I think there'll be some different changes how the events run and how it's handled compared to past events, but it looks like it'll still be a pretty good event. Next week, Tuesday, 3 o'clock in this room, we'll be having a meeting to discuss the future of this room, some different possible technology upgrades and ideas. And I believe I did send an email out to City Council, I believe, inviting you to that meeting, giving you some background on this. But you're more than welcome to come and learn more, and looking for feedback, looking to maybe prioritize some different ideas so we know which ones to go after that fit into our project budget. The Waupaca Online Upgrade Project, we're getting back on track with that. Next Tuesday, we will be getting all of our equipment mounted on the Marion Tower, and that's a big key component to the overall project we're doing. We'll learn Tuesday for sure if our link from Waupaca to Marion works. Looks great on paper. We've re-reviewed that a couple times, and we'll find out if it works in the real world. And if that all works and everything goes well, we'll be able to start moving pretty quick on the north half of the county. Some areas up there, there's a lot of demand up there. Filled a town hall meeting room pretty full with people interested, so there's some positive momentum up that way if we can get that going. What's happening with Waupaca? We've done 3 episodes with our new format, more of a informational format instead of promoting events. We've done an episode on recovery addiction, arts in Waupaca, and then scams. And we really think the new format's going well. The programs are a lot more, I think, informative and topical, and you can view them at waupaca.tv. They're more timeless than the past episodes. So we're going to continue that format. And we just taped our 12th episode of Waupaca Local Live. That is our local music show last week, and that's still going strong. So we've made it through the first year of that, and we're working with the Community Arts Board, Marcy Reynolds, on that, and we've got a volunteer involved and my staff, and that's been a really fun program to do. Henry and I are working with a company that comes in and evaluates your telecommunications bills, whether it's cell phone, regular phone lines, cable, internet, etc. And they do it at no cost, and they go through and they evaluate, they make sure everything on your bill that you're paying for, that you truly have that service. They have better inroads to the different telecommunications providers than a typical consumer would have to see if there's better plans to be on or other things that can be done with pricing. So they're evaluating all of our stuff at no cost, and they'll present their findings to us. And should we elect to go with any of their findings, if they find that there's different things we can do to save money, then there's a cost split on any findings we go through with. So I'm curious to see how that turns out. With all of our past dealings, basically with AT&T, it wouldn't surprise me if they can find some stuff that we weren't able to handle at our own level. But we're going through that process and going to see if we can save the city some money that way.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Henry.
Thank you, Mayor. My report's on page 82. Just a couple items. We do have an upcoming election on Tuesday, April 3rd, so that means we've moved our meeting to April 4th. And just to reiterate, we do plan to have a meeting that day, so Wednesday, April 4th. Please plan on a meeting. The Park and Rec Director vacancy, we're moving along on that. The information's out on the street. The application due date is Monday, April 9th. As we've done in the past with a number of department head positions, I usually put together a recruitment and selection panel. Again, this is a mayor's appointment with the council approval. So we're working to get this process through and hopefully have somebody on board by early to mid-June in that position. Just a quick update on the first responders. They're getting closer. I think they're looking at April 1. They've got just a couple final things to do with their organization, and they should be rolling really soon. And I think that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Henry.
Henry, one question. When you say out in the street, you mean just our local area?
That's a very
Yeah.
good question. No, we advertise, of course, locally a couple times in the paper. It's up on our website. We are in the municipality, the League of Wisconsin Municipalities website, and then the State Park and Recreation Association has a job board, I guess. So those are the places.
Henry, could you summarize a little more of how the deer hunt part turned out yesterday or whatever?
Sure. We ended up getting 99 people in the lottery. The police department did do some background checks and eliminated probably 25% of those folks. And then based on that, we did the lottery. We picked 20 hunters, 12 showed up last night. Roger, our street superintendent, Roger Hansen, has done a great job assisting with this. He's very passionate about hunting and is very organized, and I think it's got it on a good front. We did identify some additional city parcels and kind of what I talked to you about at the meeting, but I think he feels that they're safe, and it helps spread those 20 hunters out so they're not all falling all over each other on 2 or 3 parcels. So I think it's okay so far. And again, it goes through April 30th or until those 20 tags are gone. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on then to unfinished business. We have ordinance number 0318. This is an annexation ordinance annexing territory to the city of Waupaca for the Waupaca County Highway Department on County Road A. This is the second reading of this. Brennan, any comments in your office? Okay, and I have not had any either. So we'd be looking for a motion to adopt this ordinance.
Move to adopt ordinance number 03-18.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Chestnut, that the council adopts ordinance number 0318. This is an annexation ordinance, annexing territory to the city of Waupaca, Waupaca County Highway Department, which is on County Highway A. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
and Paul Mayo.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.
All right, under new business, we have a request from the Community Arts Board for street closures for Arts on the Square. I don't see Marcy here, but I do see Steve Lackey here. Henry, do you want to set this up at all, or Brennan? One of you two?
Well, I can.
Steve Ladkey for the Waupaca Community Arts Board. Could we,
Move down. You are anticipating Marcy?
yeah, Marcy will be here in probably 10 or 15 minutes, so if we could adjust the schedule accordingly, I'd appreciate it. If that's all right.
Sure. I'm just kidding. Yeah, yeah, we got plenty to do here, so we'll just wait.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
fine. Okay, we get to talk trucks now then. So we're recommending a purchase of a plow truck. Justin?
All right, let's talk trucks. So in our capital, we had a purchase for a new plow truck for our street department. We had 180,000 budgeted for funds. We had the bid opening on February 27th. Tried to get that turned around and into last council meeting, but we had too much to review and had to push it back to this one. Nonetheless, we developed these specifications. We put them out as a truck body and basically a truck equipment. And then you put it together and you get a plow truck. So it's worth noting that of one of the bids we got, basically it was combined both of those things. They did not use our specifications, and when we looked closely into it, or our spec form, our bid form, excuse me, we looked closer into it. The specifications of that truck fell short in several areas, just by a little bit. So overall, we are going to basically throw out that bid and say it does not conform to our specifications. So on page 175 shows you the combination of the two specifications in the bid openings, and also a bunch of options. Again, we went through and kind of spec'd out some options for us to see what they would come out. And for the plow truck body itself, which is on the top of 175, quality truck is the lowest when you include all of these options, and we'd like to have all these options with our truck. And I can go through those in details if you request it. But on the bottom spreadsheet is the equipment. We only got one from Monroe Truck. It's kind of a specialized, vendor that does just this sort of thing, so it's typical to only get the one. And going through that, the boxes that are highlighted in green are the options that we're looking to add for the equipment on the plow truck. So when you add those all up, we get $172,770 is the amount we're looking for authorization for our 2018 plow truck. There's a lot of extra information on the following pages, up to 194. You can review it or ask questions, but I'm looking for that approval now.
All right, you've heard Justin's recommendation.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mayo, second by Whitman, that we purchase a 2008 plow truck and equipment with a total amount not to exceed $172,770, with the truck being purchased from Quality Truck Care Center and the equipment from Monroe Truck Equipment. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
and Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.
All right, Justin, I think you're still up with some trees here.
Yes, I am. I have a resolution here authorizing for a Wisconsin DNR. It's actually a Great Lakes Basin tree planting grant, and we need to have this resolution to identify authorized individuals within our organization to sign off on this grant application. Very similar to the DNR Safe Drinking Loan Program. You need to have an authorized individual to sign off on these things. So we have the resolution in your packet on 195, and then some information following it. Now, this was actually brought to my attention by Russ Montgomery, of all people. He loves trees. He's into that thing. Thought this was something that we could use, and we're going to apply for it. Russ pretty much has the application ready to go. It would cover 75% of our cost of our existing tree planting program right now. So we budget $3,000 a year for planting trees, removing trees. So this would just cover 75% if we are awarded this grant. Now, this is also appealing because a lot of the check boxes on the application we can hit. It is a competitive process, so we feel very strongly that we will get some support from the DNR with this. So I'm just looking for I guess moving forward with this, approving this resolution from council tonight.
Okay, again, you have a recommendation from Justin to approve resolution number 1407.
Second.
Motion by Peterson, second by Olson, that we authorize approval of resolution number 1407. This is a authorization resolution for Wisconsin RPC and DNR Great Lake Basin Tree Planting Grant Program. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Paul Mio.
Aye.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Chuck Whitman.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
And Alan Keeland.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.
All right, thank you, Justin. Let's move on then. Brennan, you have a couple of requests for tonight, so.
Sure.
Why don't you do that?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. The first item is on page 200 of your packet, and which is the Wayfinding System Design and Branding Initiative RFP. First off, I have to give credit where credit is due, and Olivia, who is behind me, the intern for the department, actually prepared all the RFPs and the memo, so I have to give credit to her for her hand in preparing these for this evening's council meeting. The first RFP that we're seeking to send out for consideration is a joint effort, actually, with the Waupaca Convention and Visitors Bureau. I had to figure out what it was. This is an item that we have been talking about probably over the last year and a half as we continue to move forward with the implementation of the downtown plan. A joint effort has been discussed between the chamber and the city to fund our money together and create not only a regional wayfinding and branding initiative, but a more localized one for our downtown area. So the RFP is broken into two parts. There's different tasks identified for the Convention Visitors Bureau and the city, but they're of similar nature. The first one is the wayfinding, and this is one of the, we'll call it the low-hanging fruits that was identified as part of the downtown plan. It's the next part of implementation steps needed for as we continue to move forward for our downtown and reconstruction of Main Street in 2021. We've heard from a lot of the businesses, a lot of residents, our wayfinding identification within our community is lacking, and we're looking to seek proposals on a cohesive wayfinding system for our downtown area, identifying the city parking lots. This would also stretch out to some of our commercial corridors along Churchill Street and West Fulton Street. And then similarly with the Convention Visitors Bureau, they'd be looking at more of the regional area, which is, I believe, the Waupaca area, which is include about the 3 or 4 surrounding townships. And the second piece of the RFP is more of a branding initiative, and this is going to take a look at our existing brand that we portray to the community, our logo, and identify possibly a new vision moving forward. And on the Convention and Visitors Bureau side of it, they'll be looking at their existing tagline and logo that they already have and seek approval. Both of these initiatives would have separate steering committees for it, but there would be joint members on both sides, and we anticipate a lot of public involvement in this process. So with that, the estimated budget for this is between $50,000 and $65,000. The chamber is allocating $25,000 towards the project, and our funding portion is through some of the residual balance that we have within the hotel motel tax fund. Any questions?
Is this, Brendan, kind of develop a marketing plan? I explain in layman's terms what this wayfinding is.
It would identify, wayfinding is basically the signage you put out on the street that identifies key landmarks within your community. Again, a lot of this is being driven by our downtown redevelopment that we're doing right now. So it would identify the parks, it would help identify markers within the city parking lots. We get that question all the time of where the city parking lots are. So that's, and there's other signage. There was some, I would say, wayfinding that was done years ago. If you look on like 49, There's the Waupaca Up, I think is kind of that logo. We're looking to enhance that and identify other key markers within the community and help drive customers to our commercial corridors in the downtown area.
Thanks.
How much residual money are we talking about? The full amount, the balance, or?
We have enough to cover the $50,000. We're looking at probably $120,000 in residual in the hotel motel due to a change in the accounting.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so you've heard the recommendation from Brennan. We'd be looking for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Keelan. Second by Mayo that we approve the request for a proposal wayfinding system design and branding initiative with the funds to be used from the residuals from our hotel motel tax fund. Any discussion?
Can it be not to exceed that amount?
Well, what we're seeking right now is just to be allowed to send out the RFP. That is our estimated budget that we're looking at right now.
Okay.
We would still be bringing forward similar to what we did with RDG and SEH. Once we actually go through the review process, a preferred vendor, we would be bringing them forward at that time.
And you have reassured us that the businesses are involved in this also? The
They will-
businesses downtown, or they will be in the
They
future?
will be involved as part of the public process.
But it
yes.
has to go forward first, and then they would be spoken to, or have you?
Correct.
spoke?
Yes. This is an item that has come out of all the downtown planning that we've done. It was one of the items that was identified early in the strategic plan for economic development, and again, identified as one of the initiatives for implementation for the downtown plan.
And this is for 2021?
This would be conducted this year in preparation for 2021.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, Sandy will call the roll.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
and Paul Hagan,
Aye.
and Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.
All right, Brennan, you got bikes here.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is on page 211 of your packet, and this RFP proposal that we are seeking consideration for this evening is kind of a cross-department RFP. It actually touches not only my department, but also Park and Rec along with Public Works. There was, as we move forward with the Rotary Riverview Park Plan, we've identified some trails within the community that we would like to potentially pave. One of the challenges that we have is we don't have a cohesive or adopted bike and pedestrian plan that would allow us to seek grants from DNR and other state and federal agencies. The city has conducted other studies in the past. There was, because this is not only, when we talk about bike and pedestrian paths, we're not only talking about off-street paths, we're talking about sidewalks, we're talking about bike lanes. One of the things that we have to deal with as part of the downtown plan and reconstruction of Main Street is identifying bike lanes, since we are not going to put them on Main Street. So we're looking for a cohesive plan to, from a consultant to analyze some of the data that has already been collected previously back in early 2000 with the sidewalk study group, and then East Central Wisconsin did collect some data for us back in 2011 or 2012, and we are looking for a plan to actually bring all this data together, have an analysis done, and a report prepared so that we can start applying for some grants and other opportunities. This will also help guide our CIP project, or CIP funding, as we look to reconstruct roads or other capital projects in the Park and Recreation Department or downtown area. We would be utilizing this as a guideline to identify streets that would be potential for sidewalks or bike lanes or off-street trails. again, the funding for this project would be utilizing some of the residual money within the hotel motel tax fund. And again, we look at this as not only downtown, but, connections to the region as well.
How much was in that amount, Kathy?
It's $120,000.
And there's 50 to 60 then on the one we just voted on, correct?
Correct.
And then there's 25 coming from the chamber or the
The chamber is doing 25,000 towards their portion
of
of the
it.
wayfinding. And then we would have money to do the wayfinding.
Okay, and then we're adding another 25 to 30. Are we getting close to being out?
Nope.
Because that'd be like 80 or so.
You're talking about 80.
And
Right now, that's the estimate right now.
right, that's the estimate. Okay.
Brennan,
Yes.
you mentioned sidewalks. Will this study be studying possible spots to put sidewalks in, or just identifying uses of existing sidewalks for trails?
Nope, this would be a continuation of a study or plan that was done. I have to look at Henry or Justin since they would be more purview to that information. There was a group that studied sidewalk connections within the city back in, I would say, the early 2000s, I believe.
Yeah.
It's closer than that.
But the most recent work was Safe Routes to School, and that was sort of initiated when Connie Aubert was still with the extension, and East Central Wisconsin produced a report for us. And then if you remember with the Rotary Riverview Park, the plan that's coming forward, there are connections, they're trying to attempt to make connections to Swan Park and other points through the city. It's just trying to consolidate all the data, get a workable, manageable plan that would have, timelines with projects and those kind of things. I think we'll even touch Evans Street to some degree on this too, as well. We did put in a grant that talked about pedestrian work along there as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of different pieces. It's just all sitting on in different places.
Okay, I guess my point was there's a lot of streets in the city that don't have sidewalk. I mean, are they going to start recommending putting sidewalks in this street, that street, this street, that street?
We would be looking at making what the preferred options would be for pedestrian connections.
Okay.
Again, Evans Street I think is a great example because that was identified during that sidewalk study back in the early 2000s as making some form of pedestrian connection, and Justin's department has gone through that study a little bit, looking at the cross section to figure out what best pedestrian connection is to make, whether it's a sidewalk, a bike lane, or an off-street trail.
And then we would have, obviously, we'll just go over the data and then we'll have the final say, so to speak, on maybe something like that?
Correct. Again, we would be utilizing the public in a steering committee to help facilitate those, and we would be having some workshops to identify those trail systems that we'd be looking, whether it's on street or off street. Again, the biggest essence for this is the grant funding scenario and needing an adopted plan in order for us to really try to secure some large grants for these off street trails that we are hoping to construct in the future here.
So maybe it's leaning more towards trails and
sidewalks?
Than sidewalks, is that what you're saying to me? I mean, you kind of mixed the two here. Sidewalks is a hot button topic, is what I'm saying.
No, I understand. I would say it's all. I mean, I think it's all the above.
Okay.
When I was reading this on page 213 under history, it says Waupaca is located in east central Wisconsin, situated in Appleton and Stevens Point. So I don't know if you want to.
We'll make that correction.
Wow. Good going.
Okay, any other?
I think this is an excellent idea to get a good plan in place so that we can move forward. I'd hate to think of us redoing our main street and parking areas and all that and not take into consideration bicycles and pedestrians. I think it's a great idea, and I'm happy to, I think we should move forward.
Okay. Any other?
I'd like to second what Mary said. I think we're putting all this time and effort and money to the Main Street, you want to do it right. You better get the signage right, you better get everything as best, at least as the experts tell us to do it. Now, try to hodgepodge it together.
Am I correct in saying that if we don't have our ducks in a row and the facts and the consultants' points of view and recommendations all in order, our chances for grants in the future are much slimmer, correct?
Yes, I think that would be an accurate statement.
Right.
Okay, anything else? I'd be looking for a motion to approve this request. Motion by Hagan.
Second.
Second by Keelan, that we approve of the request for a proposal for a bicycle and pedestrian master plan, again with the funds to be used from the hotel motel tax fund. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
Chuck Whitman.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
And Paul Mayo.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.
All right, next we have license report number 1401. This is the operator license or the bartender's license, which are on page 220 of your packet. We're looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Fair,
Second.
second by Chestnut, that we approve of license report number 1401. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. All right, we'll go back to new business. This is a request from the Community Arts Board. Henry, you want to start here?
Yeah, sure. We've been working with not only Community Arts Board, but a couple of other organizations that have events downtown, including the Farmers Market, in anticipation of the parking lot project and the need to, find new environs for the event. This event's in late August. Well, it's a triathlon weekend, so we will definitely be under construction, so the event's going to need to move. So I think they've worked very hard to try to come up with an alternative location, have some pretty cool ideas. We've met a number of times, Brennan, myself, Justin's been involved as well. Yeah, she can present now.
Okay, thanks. And I think you guys have in the packet our letter that we send every year. This is, by the way, I'm Marcy Reynolds. I'm from the Waupaca Community Arts Board. And I have Steve Ladke here and Susan Renwicki. We're going to do 2 topics tonight. And the first one is just our plans to move Arts on the Square and our requests for street closures. So, like Henry said, due to the reconstruction around City Hall, we're going to have to move Arts on the Square, so it's going to be Arts off the Square. And this brings a number of challenges as well as opportunities to us as we plan the festival. So I just want to go through a few points. Number one, it's really important, and it always has been, and this is our 12th year, to remain downtown. We feel very strongly that we want to support the efforts to keep our downtown vibrant and support the local businesses, as well as continue to work on creating a creative economy in Waupaca. So therefore, we have planned to hold many aspects of Arts on the Square on Main Street as well as Sessions Street. And we have to have some street closures as a result of that. We've met with several of the businesses downtown on Main Street, as well as representation from Waupaca King in between. So that would be Michelle Drake. They had a meeting tonight, but when we talked to her and the businesses, they're pretty happy about the plans to hold the festival as part of Main Street, because we have plans that will create interactions with the businesses and the festival. And the way that we're setting it up will create more of a shopping corridor for the businesses, kind of interfacing with the artist tents So they're pretty excited about that. We want to embrace the storefronts and the businesses and bring them into the planning stages so that the retailers can take part not only just engaging with the festival, but improving their businesses. We're also incorporating Rotary Park for Arts on the Square. It's a big part of our plan. So I don't know if this was in the packet. Did you guys get this map? Okay. So you can see that the festival grounds are the 2 blocks of North Main, Sessions Street, the ramp leading down to Rotary Park, and pretty much all of Rotary Park. So our grounds, so to speak, are actually pretty expanded. But the Rotary Park portion of Arts on the Square is a very important part of the festival this year. Excuse me. Our challenges really, I guess, are twofold. It's the electricity and water supplies for our food vendors and staging. We are working on solutions for that on our own privately, and I think we're going to be okay with that, Steve? Yep. And then the other issue, of course, is extended street closure. So we do have the letter that specifies the exact dates and times each street needs to be closed. Excuse me. A couple other things I just wanted to mention. I know that street closure has always been a hot topic for every event that people have done downtown, whether it's Arts on the Square, Strawberry Fest, the Rotary Oktoberfest. I think that it can be seen both ways. If you look at the time frame that we're closing streets for Arts on the Square, for instance, some of that time, most, probably 95% of the businesses aren't open during that time period. And the other factor that's really important to look at is the economic impact of Arts on the Square. We've always run our numbers through what's called an arts economic calculator, and that calculator that we've used since day one has now been adopted by our state's Department of Tourism, and it lives on the Wisconsin State Art Boards and Tourism websites. We used conservative numbers of attendance for our event and came out with an economic impact of $135,000 to $178,000. So it's pretty impressive. And when you look at how those calculators work, it isn't really surprising. If you're bringing X number of people in and they spend an estimate average of X amount, it does calculate out to be pretty significant. So we're really hoping that our request for street closure will be taken in the context of it's pretty much good for everybody to do the festival. So the other thing that we want to make sure everybody knows is that we're taking some serious steps as an organization to improve our marketing and reach for attendance for this weekend and the week before. We're working with an agency, it's a new arts advocacy organization from the Fox River Valley called Northeast Wisconsin Arts Association, and they have an 18-county catchment area. We're one of the counties that's furthest ahead in that whole organization of counties, and so we are going to be contracting with them. Plus, we're going to be contracting with a marketing individual that's going to help us specifically for Arts on the Square to bring more people downtown. So, with that, I guess what we're requesting for street closures is in our letter. We would like to request that Sessions Street from the corner of Sessions and Main to the alley for the entire week prior to Arts on the Square be closed, and that would start on Saturday, August 11th at 8 a.m. and end Sunday, August 19th at 7 p.m. And we'll get to why we want that for the whole week in a few minutes when we talk about our community art project. We would like North Main Street, the first block from the stoplight on the corner of Fulton and Main to the intersection of Main and Sessions to be closed Saturday from 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. And then North Main Street from Sessions Street to the Danes Hall from Friday at 8 a.m. to Sunday at 7 p.m. So those are our street closure requests. Anybody have any questions?
Marcy? I do on the north Main Street from the intersection of Sessions to the Danes home from Friday, August 17th through the 19th, because there's so much housing in that area. How are we going to assist those people? Many are elderly in the
Right.
apartments, above the apartments.
Right. So, excuse me, that's why I asked if you guys had the map.
Yeah.
So if you want to refer to that, you can see that actually the tent only goes probably 2/3 of the way into that street. And so there's room, excuse me, after the tent in front of the firehouse apartments, which is probably the main concern.
And maybe saying that out loud to them, that they would be able to get in with their
Yes,
their
yes.
vehicles or
Right.
their
Right.
or their rides or
Or the
you know, how-
taxi.
well, and they some are more medical rides, so just that
Right.
availability to get them in there.
Yeah, we're gonna leave that available for people to get through.
Okay.
And
That
park.
being stated, so that that's said. Thank you.
A lot of their parking, just to mention too, is below. A
Is
lot of the
below
people
it,
do
right.
park below. And that is not being blocked.
So they can get out of there.
Right. So that whole Cooper Street, we're not blocking Cooper Street at all. So they'll retain all of that parking down there. But the taxi does really actually go to the front door, and so we need to leave that kind of we'll make some kind of roundabout for them.
And I think the medical.
We won't call it a roundabout because people don't like roundabouts.
I mean, not so popular anymore, right?
Yeah. Cul-de-sac maybe.
Okay,
Okay,
we
thank
got a request here. Anybody else have any questions? Dave?
Yeah.
Question, Session Street for a whole week? Is
Right.
that not where Farmer State Bank drive-through comes in?
We're going to go just to the alley, so they will still be clear. That part of the street will still be clear. Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Paul?
On Cooper Street, are you gonna have, like barricades or something for pedestrians?
We're going to do something with that crosswalk to make it safe. It might be even actually manning it. We did that the first couple years of Arts on the Square, where we had kids do creative crosswalk manning, almost like, what do they call those? Crossing guards. Yeah. We're going to have, I wanted to say streetwalker, but I knew that wasn't the right answer. No, crossing guards. We did that the first couple years, and it,
Okay, any other questions? All right, we're looking for a motion to approve these road closures.
So moved.
Motion by Fair,
Second.
second by Prochaski, that we approve of the road closures that Marcy had outlined. Any discussion?
I would like to hear a little bit more explanation about the Session Street closure. Marcy alluded to that. They were going to
Okay.
address that issue. I'd like to hear that first before we vote.
Anybody else have any comments?
That was my question too.
okay. We can launch into that if you want, because that's part 2 of our presentation, actually. Okay, so, yeah.
We
would
have a
you-
motion on the floor and a second, so we need to handle that first here.
Well, we're in discussion about the street closure.
Okay, but that's the next item on the agenda,
All right.
okay?
But the street, that street closure is part of this motion.
Absolutely, and you can vote no if you want to,
No,
but this is on that discussion. These are 2 different motions.
Or it could be amended
Or could be.
to exempt the Sessions Street closure from voting right now. The motion can be amended.
Or you could just pull it back and hear the
Withdraw it.
discussion too.
Right.
So Mary, you made the motion and I think Scott made the second, so
So I would have to pull my
Just,
motion?
yeah.
We can-
withdraw your motion.
I withdraw my motion.
All right, and Scott?
I would withdraw the second.
All right, so let's look at the second part, which was dealing with the community art sculpture here. And,
Okay. Would you like us to put the model in the
Absolutely.
middle so that you can see it? Okay,
that would be great.
all right. Do you want to just carry it? Yeah,
You just slide that
Yeah.
table. Need
No,
some help?
Susan, we're going to just use that table. Okay, so as you all know, we've always done a community art project in conjunction with Arts on the Square. We like to do something participatory where we can engage everyone in the community in creativity, the creative process, okay? So we've had many community art projects over the years. We've done clay, we've done murals. One of them is actually in the police department community room. Silk screen batiks, we did a tile table, and we did the tremendously challenging tile sculpture that's at South Park. So this year, because we were having to move, we wanted to do something kind of big to celebrate that change in the plans. So we asked artist Susan Renwicki to come up with a community type sculpture that we could all partake in. And the name of this sculpture is Waupaca. So the word Waupaca for many people would conjure up something that's kind of utopian or real positive, and that's exactly what we're aiming at. Our core concept of Waupaca is the beauty of our interconnectedness. Through relationships, we can build a stronger community. This is Waupaca. Now, we're fully aware that Waupaca is not utopia. I don't think there is a utopia. But we have, we do have serious problems here. We all recognize that. We have drug abuse, we have poverty, we have many things that aren't right with our city. But we know that through building healthy relationships, we can work towards improving the health of our community. And we like to say as our tagline, building community through the arts. And so we're literally going to build through the arts, and we're going to do it together. So together we're going to create this gigantic wooden sculpture-like structure that represents our collective ideals of what it could be to live in our community. So what this is it's a series of pods or modules, as Steve likes to call them. You can see that there's individual kind of like boxes there. There's 18 of them. There's 2 different sizes. And what we're going to do is open this up to the community, whether it's a group or a business, where people will get the instructions to make the pod. We have a core construction crew of professional carpenters who are going to create kits. And so if you sign on to do a pod, you'll get an actual kit. It's almost like something you get from IKEA that's flat packed. Everything is cut. There's hardware, there's instructions, even the paint will be in the kit. So there will be 18 kits that'll get delivered, and the job of the group is to then just construct it using the instructions and possibly help from the construction crew. They'll return their completed pod by July 9th, and we will inspect them and make sure that they're strong and put together correctly, put on the finishing details if needed. And then on August 11th, which is that week before Arts on the Square, and that's why we need to close Sessions Street, we will have the group come together, the construction people, and they will put the whole thing together with the framing and make sure it's structurally sound. And that sculpture will be in place for the entire week prior to Arts on the Square. So then it becomes really the centerpiece for all the activities of the whole week. We have a separate subcommittee that's planning activities to be done in and around the sculpture for the whole week. Henry talked to the point of designating this temporary pop-up park so that that area of Sessions Street from Main Street to the alley will be kind of decked out as a fake park, so to speak. It's going to drive more people to the North Main area of downtown, which is a sorely needed thing to happen on a daily basis. We're going to have a lot of activities going on. It'll impact the economy of the part of the street, and we'll have a lot of engagement of various groups, artists, musicians, dance, puppet theater, you name it. And we're going to have just a really fun time, not only putting the sculpture together, but then utilizing it as an actual venue for the week. It is a temporary sculpture, so on the Sunday following Arts on the Square, we'll have a disassembly party. We've discussed this with the Lions Club. We're proposing that they bring their pancake machines down, and we'll have a big community brunch. People will be able to take their pod home and do with it whatever they want to do with it. So that's really why we need the street to be closed for the entire week. Does anyone have any questions?
Marcy?
Yes.
How looking at the done size of that, how high and about how wide are you looking at this being? Street wide, and how many feet high, or?
Well,
This is a scale drawing,
Right.
and there's a person here.
Mhm.
That can give you an idea, but Steve, you can
It's looking to be about 3
Again, Steve Latke for the Community Arts Board. The total length of the structure is 28 feet. The total width of the structure is about 25. Those are 4 by 4 by 8 modules along the bottom tier.
So 8 feet tall.
So it's 8 feet tall there, and then another 4, and another 8, and then the canopy. So it's probably close to 30 feet tall. And the Session Street is 50 feet wide. So we're going to crowd it to the north side of Session Street, so we have a traffic lane which will only be used for the food vendors to come in and out as necessary. And but then the rest of the Session Street from Main Street to the alley can, as Marcy said, can be turned into a park-like setting with tables, benches. You know, people can eat their lunch there. We're thinking about having a little water feature, fountain in there. So I think it'll really transform that sort of bare block. So.
Okay, any other questions?
Got a question. I'd like to ask one of our resident fire inspectors, what do you think of this structure, Mr. Whitman? And the firefighter sitting right next to you, we can also ask his opinion on that, so.
Well, I don't actually think a structure like that would be under any sort of code, to tell you the truth. So it's not.
Code.
It's not regulated by any code. Being essentially, that's an open air structure to me. It's not livable. It's not habitable. They're not sleeping in it. They're not doing anything like that. So I don't even know if it is a structure that could be inspected.
How do the modules get lifted up into position?
We've got Tommy Simpson and his heavy-duty equipment helping us with that. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Oh, okay.
I'm very concerned about safety issues here on that second level and higher.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that the construction crew is going to be professional carpenters. We've got about 10 guys on a crew that are going to be in charge of the safety aspects and the putting together. It's also why we're going to have the pods returned so soon, because we want to make sure that they're all structurally sound and can, you know, that they haven't just been thrown together by somebody that didn't know what they were doing.
So the volunteers or the pod constructors would not be doing the mounting of the modules?
No,
Okay.
no. You turn your pod in and then it's done.
Okay.
Right. It really needs to be put together by professionals.
Mhm.
So we've got people on the crew that are, one guy's a contractor, for instance.
Along those lines, would there be any chance of anybody with kids, you'd think, come down and climbing on it?
Exactly. We're hiring security for the whole week during the off-hour times. There'll be activities during the on-hour times, quote-unquote, the daytime and the early evening, and then we'll have a security person there to make sure. Because obviously, if you're a kid, you're going to just think, I'm going to go climb that thing. So that will be off limits. Nobody will be able to climb on it.
That will be 24 hours? Because
Right.
I can envision graffiti
Yeah.
and things going on.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. It's not really going to be left unmanned between us doing activities there and then the nighttime security person.
Thinking about, you know, the upper level structures, is there going to be a certain amount of people that can be up there? Is there a guideline in there anywhere for that? It's a precaution?
There's not going to be any people on it at all. You'll be able to go underneath,
but not up.
But not up into it. No.
Okay, good.
No.
Do you have insurance?
The Arts Board has liability insurance.
Liability insurance.
Mhm. It's really an ambitious project, full of a lot of questions. As we were discussing it and creating it, we just kept saying, oh my gosh, what are we doing? But we really feel like we have all the bases covered and it's going to be phenomenal. And I think people are just going to have so much fun with it. I think the safety has been really our biggest concern. We've talked a lot with Henry and Brennan over the last 6 months about that. I think we've resurfaced questions many times about that. At one point, we thought maybe it could be a trial roundabout, but we got rid of that idea. We figured out that that was not a safe thing to do.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so we're on to this project that's going to happen on Session Street, and the arts community is looking for a approval to allow to put this project up during those dates. So anybody would like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
A motion by Mayo.
Second.
We have a second by Prochatsky that we give approval to the Community Arts Board to put up their community sculpture on Session Street. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Motion carried. Let's go back to the street closures then.
I move that we close the streets as outlined in the first half of this presentation. Do I need to list them all?
No, that's
Okay.
fine. So we have a motion by Fair,
Second.
second by Prochatsky that we approve of the road closures, Session Street, North Main Street, or both blocks of North Main Street, and the dates are listed, dates and times are listed in your packet. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Good luck. Keep us informed about what's going on.
Thank you very much. I have one more thing I have to say. We want you guys to build one. City Council.
Good luck.
It could be a really cool team building thing. Or maybe you could pair up with the city employees and make one. I was going to say bake one. The instructions are in your packet if anybody's interested or knows somebody that would be interested in making one. There's only 18. Actually, one of them is already spoken for. So if you're interested at all, just follow the instructions. There's a couple typos on here, but I think you get the gist of it. Okay, thank you very much.
Do we have to address the issue of the beer sales and the,
Right.
using the park bandstand?
That wasn't a request of theirs.
No, that
coming
we thought
forward?
that would get taken care of by the beer permits that we're going to be getting, like the
answer
picnic
is-
license.
The answer is no, okay?
Okay.
Not tonight. All right.
He'll be coming back with it.
Okay, if we
Okay.
have to, we will. Thank you very much.
Anything else? All right, let's move on then. All right, so we have finished everything except for our closed session, so we're going to look for a motion to convene into closed session.
I'd make a motion to convene into a closed session with under section 19.85, parent 1, parent E.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Hagan, second by Keelan, that we go into closed session according to what Alderperson Hagan just had read. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
and Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.